Hello class, and welcome to day 2 of our fire particle. Today, or in this video, I'm going to cover how to add 3 layers to our fire, 3 more layers to give it more realism. And let's get started then. Okay, so going back to what we did the previous video, we created this fire particle, and I think right now it's a little bit too bright for what we want. So because we're going to add a front layer to this fire, so we're going to make this layer kind of like the back layer, and we're going to make it a little bit darker. So we're going to go to start color under the my fire particles, and we're going to change everything to 200. So right now it's at 255. We're going to change all of these values to 200. And as you will see, this will darken our fire. Okay? Alright, so we're going to first create the next layer by duplicating the previous layer. So we're going to go to My Fire Particles in the hierarchy window. We're going to do Control D to duplicate. And we're going to rename it by right-clicking on it and renaming it. And we're going to rename it to My Fire Add PS for particle system. So My Fire Additive particle system. Now we're also going to do is we're going to take My Fire Additive particle system and make it a child of My Fire particles. Now by doing this, we'll be able to see one layer on top of the other. Okay. Now obviously right now you're not going to see it as another layer because it's kind of a clone right now and it's just overlapping each other, but that will change in a minute. So let's go ahead and move on to what we're going to do next. So now we're going to go into our My Assets folder, and you remember that we created a fire material. Now we're actually going to duplicate this and make another material separate for the additive particle system. So we're going to hit Control D on My Fire Material, and it should create a new one, and it's going to rename it to My Fire Material 1. We're going to rename it so that to not have confusion, we're going to call it My Fire Add Material. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and change the shader. So because this particle system is going to be in front, we're going to, basically in addition to, we need to change the shader, which is now duplicated as particles priority alpha blended. We're going to change it to particles priority additive. So now this will be a different type of shader where it's going to be put in front. Let's go ahead and change the color of it right now. So we can click on the text color, and by default it's all 128. We're going to actually make it brighter. So we're going to change the color to 255 for the alpha, and we're going to change all the other numbers to 150. Okay, so we're going to have a brighter material. Now that we created the material, again, if you click on the particle system, you don't really see it changing our particle or anything because we haven't associated it yet. So that's the next step. We're going to associate the My Fire Additive material to the My Fire Additive particle system. So you're going to click on the My Fire Additive particle system, have it highlighted in your hierarchy. We're going to go down to Render tab, and you can see right here that's My Fire material because we duplicated it. Now we're going to use the new material, and we're going to replace it. And now you can see that you can start seeing kind of a brighter fire kind of in the background. Now we don't want it to be in the background, we want it to be in the foreground. So there's a option called Order in Layer right here under Render. It says 0. 0 means it's the furthest in the back. A higher number means it is more up front. So by changing it from 0 to 1, the order layer, we now have a additive effect that's kind of in front of our back layer. Okay, let's go ahead now and change some of the parameters. Okay, because this is not exactly what we want. The additive fire is kind of too big, so we're going to change some of the parameters. So we're going to go under the My Fire Additive Particle System and have what we call the default options. We're going to change some of the values. We're going to first change the lifetime. Right now the lifetime is 2.5. Let's make it only 1. So basically now the fire particles only last for about 1 second. So now it's kind of a smaller inner fire here. And then we're going to change the start speed to 2. So it's shorter, but we're going to make it last. I'm sorry, start speed to 2. Let's go ahead and go back. Start speed. Oops. Control Y to redo. Yes, let's change the start speed to 2. So now you see it kind of go really high, and the lifetime, let's go back to 1 again. So a start lifetime of 1, a start speed of 2, and we're going to change the size of this because right now it's kind of too big. We want it to be a little bit smaller than our outer layer. So instead of 0.5, we're going to make it 0.4. So it's slightly smaller fire. Okay, so kind of make kind of the inner fire of our fire. Let's go ahead and change the color over time because right now it's kind of a very bright yellow. So we're going to go to color over time. We're going to click on the gradient editor and we're going to change some of these values. So right now the inner fire is kind of too bright still. So I'm going to change the alpha of the second alpha frame to only 200 instead of 250. So it's not as bright. And we're going to change some of the colors. So the first thing we're going to change is this color, which was kind of a very bright yellow. Let's make it kind of a lower yellow color. So right now it's at 255, 232. Let's go ahead and change it to 200 for red, 200 for green, and 100 for blue. And you can see now that it's a kind of a lighter yellow color, not such a bright yellow color. Okay, and now we're going to close the color and change the third color frame, because the inner fire should not turn into kind of a smoky black. It should be kind of ending in like a red color. So we're going to change this third color frame by double clicking on it, making sure it's at 100%, and we're going to change the color from a black to a pure red. So you can do that by changing this to 255 or moving it with your mouse cursor all the way to the upper right corner. So basically now it's going to end, it's going to start out yellow, go to an orangey red, and then to a pure red at the tip to make it kind of our really colorful inside additive color. And that's it. So that's kind of finish up our additive layer. If you feel like you want to change the shape of it, make it a little bit wider, you can, but I kind of like the way it looks right now. All right, so next we're going to add a glow layer, because right now our fire is not really glowing. It's not creating any type of glow. It's just kind of the visual effect of fire, but not actually the glow properties we need. So we're going to actually create another glow layer. So we're going to kind of start at the end with our My Fire Additive Particle System, and we're going to duplicate it. So again, we're going to hit Control D. We're going to duplicate the My Fire Additive Particle System. It's going to rename it to 1. We're going to rename it to My Fire Glow Particle System. Okay. And likewise, we're going to need to duplicate and create another material for it to associate with it. So we're going to go back to the My Fire Additive material that we just created in the previous layer. I'm going to hit Control D. It's going to create a duplicate that's going to be called number 1. We're going to immediately rename it to not confuse ourselves. We're going to call it My Glow or My Fire Glow Matte material. Okay, so My Fire Glow material. And we're going to actually go ahead and change it, because right now we're going to basically add a glow effect. So we're going to change the texture. Instead of having our fire texture, we're just going to go back and change the particle texture by clicking this select button right here and going it back to default. So if you type in default in the search window for the select texture window, you'll see the default particle. Okay. And let's go ahead and click back on our hierarchy windows so that we can see it. And we don't see it because we actually haven't associated it yet. So let's go ahead and associate it. So we're going to go to My Fire Glow Particle System. And just like before, we're going to go down to the Render tab. And we're going to replace the My Fire Additive material with our Fire the My Fire Glow material. Okay, and we have now changed it. Let's see. Let's go ahead and actually change the color of the My Fire Glow material. Right now, it's kind of set the same color as before. We're going to make this glow a little bit less or more depending on what we want. Right now, it's at 150, 150, 255. That's kind of too bright. We're going to change all of these values to 100. So we're going to have a very low, bright color glow. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and close it now. Let's go ahead and click back on the My Glow particle system. And now we have associated it. Now you can kind of, we have an issue right now where we really can't see what we're doing because the My Fire Additive particle system is too bright. So how we're going to fix this is we're going to click on My Fire Additive particle system, and we're going to uncheck it, just for now. So we're not kind of losing it, we're just kind of turning it off for now so that we can kind of concentrate on our glow. Okay, so back to our glow. We're going to see and hit the restart button and see our glow. Now you can see that our glow looks very pixelated and kind of squarish like, and that's because we duplicated it and has this texture sheet animation, and we changed the texture back to its default. So we're going to uncheck the texture sheet animation, and now you can sort of see the glow, the particle glow that we were after. The only thing we need to do now is go ahead and change the size. So we're going to go to back to the default options under My Fire Glow particle system, and we're going to change the start size. So we had a start size of 0.4 for our previous fires. Well, our glow is going to be bigger, so let's try 0.8. Let's kind of double the size of our glow, right? So now we have a kind of a bright glow here. Maybe that's a little bit too big. Let's try maybe 0.7. Again, this is not a science, you know, it's an art in terms of how you want it to look. So let's make it about 0.7, and let's go ahead and turn off rotation, because right now this glow is actually rotating, and glows don't technically rotate, so we're going to change it back to a constant of 0. Okay, so now we have this kind of glowing particle system that's kind of just giving it kind of a nice glow. Now again, you're welcome to go ahead and change your glow if you don't like it. Maybe it's too big, maybe you want to change its start size a little bit lower, maybe you want to go 0.6 instead and just see how that looks. All right, maybe you want to change down the brightness and change down the start color. Again, that's all up to you about how you ultimately want your fire to look. And I'm just going to leave it here and have this nice small glow here. Okay. All right. So now that we're done with the glow, I'm actually going to create one more layer. And that layer is sparks. Okay. So basically, you know, when fire is burning, it's kind of like a bonfire, you know, a wood fire, you're going to see some random sparks kind of spark out of our fire. And right now we don't have that. So we're going to create one more layer. I'm going to go to My Fire Glow Particle Systems, and I'm going to hit Control D again to create a duplicate. And I'm going to rename this one My Fire Sparks Particle System. Okay. And so right now we kind of duplicate it from the My Fire Glow. This time we're actually not going to create its own material. We're going to keep the same material as the glow. We're just probably just going to make the particles much, much smaller. So we're going to leave basically the same material. So for now, I'm actually going to turn off the My Fire Glow particle system by unchecking it so that we can concentrate on the sparks. And I'm going to hit restart. And of course, it's going to look just exactly like our previous one because we duplicated it. It's going to look like our glow. But now when we start changing the parameters, you'll see that start looking like sparks. So we're going to first start with the default parameters. The first one we're going to do is we're going to make the lifetime a little bit longer. So instead of 1 second, we're going to make it 1.3 seconds. And you're going to see now that the sparks, or well, looks like a glow right now, is kind of going higher. Okay, we're going to change the start speed. So the start speed of the glow was only 2. We're going to change the speed of our sparks to 4. And now you can kind of see it becoming more like sparks. Okay, so it's kind of going all the way up and flying kind of fast. We're going to change the start color because sparks are, you know, much brighter. We're going to go and change the start color right here by clicking on the start color and changing all these values that we're at 200 to 255. So 255, 255, 255, and 255. And basically the sparks are going to kind of come out as a reddish white color, a very nice high glow. Okay, let's go ahead and close the start color. And now we're going to change the size. Right? These particles are just way too big. You know, this was meant for glow, not meant for sparks. So we're actually going to go to the start size. So right now the start size is 0.6. We're going to click the drop down arrow and actually make it random, because sparks aren't all the same size. Some are bigger, some are smaller. We're going to change the start size to 0.1, a random number between 0.1 and 0.2. And now you see that our sparks are kind of the color or the size that we want it. And let's go ahead and change the radius, because right now the sparks are kind of only in the middle of the fire. I maybe want the radius to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go to close this and go to shape. And I can change the thickness of the radius to, I'm sorry, just the radius itself to a higher radius. Let's go 0.2. So now the sparks are flying more, kind of a larger radius of our cone. And, you know, and here's kind of your opportunity to kind of look at your fire and your sparks and go, hey, you know, my sparks are kind of going a little bit too far out. Maybe I want to shrink that a little bit. We'll work on that later. So let's go ahead and add some other features to our sparks. There's a new feature that I want to teach you guys, and that's noise. So we're going to left click and check the noise box. So now you can see that the sparks aren't moving such a, you know, a normal trajectory. You can see that some of them are kind of flying out to the left, flying out to the right. And now we're going to actually click the noise tab and change some of the functionality and the frequency in which it happens. We're going to make the strength of the noise a little bit bigger, because we are out in the wilderness in our castle. Maybe we want the strength of the noise to be a little bit bigger, and maybe we want it to happen more frequently. So we're going to change the frequency from 0.5 to 1, and go ahead and hit restart. And now you can see that our noise is kind of more rampant, and it's more more sporadic. And the last thing we're going to do is actually change the size, because right now our particles look like they're kind of not dissipating. They're kind of just big and stay big until it runs out of its lifetime. So we're going to go to size over lifetime, and we're going to look at the curve. You click on this curve here, and this is the curve that we use for our fire particles. You know, they get bigger and bigger like smoke and fire as it gets further and further, but that's not the case for particles. So we're going to change it to a downward curve. We're going to actually choose the fifth option here, where it kind of does a slant starting at 1.5 and gets smaller and smaller as time goes on. So now you can see the particles start out kind of big and kind of get smaller. Now maybe the particles are too big right now, kind of where it starts out. But actually, it's before we even try to change anything, let's kind of see all the layers together and kind of see what our fire looks like with all 4 layers active. So I'm going to go back to my fire additive particle system and re-click it back so that you'll start seeing it again. And we're going to go back to the glow, and we're going to activate it by clicking the left button, the checkbox again, and then we're going to hit restart on our preview. And now we're going to get all 4 layers kind of put on top of each other. We have a kind of a back layer here. We have a additive layer that's kind of a bright fire in the front of it. We have a kind of a glow that kind of gives us kind of a light feeling, you know, near the bottom. And we're having some random sparks kind of fly out into the air. Now again, you know, this is again a science in terms of how we make it, but an art in terms of how it ultimately ends up. So again, if you don't like some of these, you know, maybe sparks is going too rapidly, you can go ahead and change some of these features yourself. You know, you're welcome to do whatever you artistically feel is right for your fire. Maybe for me, my biggest critique of my fire right now is that these sparks are kind of too sporadic. Maybe I want to tone that down. I'm going to go to shape, maybe lower the radius to maybe, you know, instead of 0.2, 0.15, right? So it's not so sporadic. Maybe change the angle to make it a little bit less. Maybe it's too wide of an angle at 10 degrees. Maybe I'll make it, I don't know, 5 degrees. So the sparks, you know, come out. Maybe 5 is too much. Maybe you go back to, I don't know, 6. You know, kind of get an idea of how far the sparks are going. Maybe I don't want it as high. I can change the lifetime, make it shorter. And again, these are all kind of up to you in terms of what you want to do. Okay, and let's go ahead and hit, let's hit the play button and kind of see what our fire looks like in live rendering. So I still have my third person, and and you can see kind of what it looks like, what my fire looks like. Now it'll be helpful if my screen wasn't so white, and I can kind of see it better in its natural lighting. Turn down some of my light features, but you get an idea. Okay, and that kind of ends our tutorial on how to make your fire look very real, and having all these extra layers to kind of give it this depth that we want. Okay, all right, I'll see you guys later.